Transforming how you approach your relationships. I used to be that girl that did not have friends. I just didn't trust people. Finding friendships, connections that actually align with who you are becoming, you have to just trust and have faith and believe that that is the case. Because if not, then you begin to latch on to these relationships that are lies.
On to another lifting and life lessons. This is going to be a total body workout because it's been a minute since I have been to the gym, so I think I need to move every muscle part of my body. But the sun is still not out yet, so we're going to have to figure this out. Hopefully the lighting is good.
Let's get our workout in. All right, so first we're gonna warm up. We're doing full body. We got lots of jumping. We got lots of things to do, so let's start. See if it can keep up with me. Oh, what, did you see that? Okay, we're excited. All right, I talk to myself a lot. Oh, start heating up the legs. So we're about to do a decent leg day, but also arms, full body. Let's go. Lord help me. Okay, I'm feeling inspired to talk about transforming how you approach your relationships. My life currently is very different. If you were to have, I'm stretching, if you were to have observed me in the past, which many of you, maybe you followed me for some time, I used to be that girl that did not have friends. Like I had friends, but not like real friends. And I never let anybody in. I was very isolated. And I thought that that was just the way things were supposed to be. I thought that, I just didn't trust people. I didn't trust people with my mind. I couldn't rely on people. I felt like I did not know how to ask for help, nor was I willing to receive it. I was just very isolated. And if you are a Filipino or know of any Filipinos, they would probably agree that many of us, it's almost like a part of our culture to do everything on your own. And like, especially if you're like, I call myself a little plant, because my parents, they came to America, had me, so I'm first generation in my family to be in the States. And then when I was 18, they left and went back home. And whew, that's exhausting. And you might think like, oh, that's kind of sad. She was by herself a lot, which it is kind of sad. But on the grand scheme of things and by comparison to a lot of other Filipinos out there, it's not uncommon to do this, right? Like, especially if you're first generation of another ethnicity, coming to the States, leaving your kids and then going back home is not uncommon. I don't blame my parents for wanting to go back home. It is a simpler life out there. I won't say easier, but it's more simple. And it just made my beliefs and building connections a lot more difficult. We're gonna keep it at the 5 pounders, y'all. Okay. So, just still warming up. Actually, I'm not gonna go beyond this 5 pounds. So when I was a bodybuilder, you would think that I was like lifting, well, I was a bikini competitor. You would think that I would be lifting just a little bit more, but I was actually lifting a lot more when I wasn't competing. My instructor, my coach at the time, actually brought me down from, I think I was casually using 20 pounds per arm, and she brought me down to 5. Said that I didn't really need to go above that, just more repetitions and more time under tension. So either move slowly to allow your muscles to have more of that time under tension. But if you're going to do that, I would say do both, or high rep. And this actually ends up burning more of the fat instead of like building as much muscle, but it still tones you up. So it really just depends on your preference. But right now, I really don't want bigger biceps. Not that they can get huge, but I want nice toned arms, especially since I'm getting my implants out. I don't want my arms to be like boulder shoulders and me not having any boobs to change up my feminine structure. Okay, back to what I was saying. So basically, I grew up very isolated and alone. And that wasn't uncommon for me, and I was just used to that. But this last year, I actually transformed a lot of the ways that I manage my relationships. And now I would say that I actually have a very fulfilling social life, friendships, girlfriend group, best friend. Like, I married the man of my dreams. I feel like overall, my life has expanded since I've opened up my world to allowing more people in. Now, it seems like, that's kind of scary, Donna. Maybe it's inauthentic. But the truth is, the more you're able to open yourself up to a multitude of different characters, different people in your life, the more you can accomplish, the more fulfilled you'll actually feel within your life. And it doesn't seem like this would be the case. It truly has changed my life and the way that I see relationships. About to do a dope workout, y'all. Let's see if this mic stays attached to me. We don't know. So what I want to give you advice on in finding friendships that actually, like connections that actually align with who you are becoming, who you want to become, you have to keep in mind what that mindset actually looks like. So embodying the person you admire, right? What kind of friendships do they have? What relationships, is this good? Yeah, oh wow, it's still tracking me. What things are they doing on their day-to-day? What do they eat? How do they speak? Who are they sharing their time with? What do they do on their day-to-day? You want to just make sure that you're aware of what that requires, right? So if you are somebody who wants to get into the fitness industry, this is always like the easiest example I can use. If you're someone who wants to get in the fitness industry and you are not eating healthy, you're not taking care of your body, you're not taking those walks, you're not doing whatever, trust me, you're not going to find the people that do those things because you're staying in a space that you're staying in an environment that doesn't support that. And you don't want that, right? You want new relationships, you want new friendships, things that are in line with who you are and who you're becoming. So what do you do? Oh, my balance on my right is not as good. So what do you do when you begin to formulate the mindset and the process that it takes to become her or him? Well, as soon as you start to recognize what it is that these people you admire do in their day-to-day, start putting yourselves in that environment. So there are Facebook groups that you can join. There are apps like Meetup. There are things, even like if you go on TikTok or YouTube and you search up, I think TikTok might be a better option, but if you go onto those websites or these platforms and type up, Arizona meetups or wherever you live meetups or things like that, you'll probably find quite a bit of things to do around your area to start meeting people who are interested in the same things that you are. There's events that you can sign up for. There's masterminds that you can join in. Some of them are going to be free. Some of them are going to require an investment, and that's okay, right? I think I want to switch your mentality, if you've never invested in yourself, to begin to think of how important it actually is for your mindset to grow, for your mind to expand, to put yourself in a room where you find people who are in alignment with what you actually want to do and become. It is worth it. It is worth every penny. You are the one person that you will have to spend a lifetime with. Everything else goes and dies away. Like I love my husband, obviously. I want to be with him forever. But at the end of the day, it is still me that I have to deal with. When he's gone at work, when he's dealing with clients, it's me who has to deal with me and my mindset. So my happiness and my health needs to come first. And then when I am so good with myself, then I can pour into others. So take care of you, invest in you, and begin to actually customize your life. When you are beginning to develop these new relationships, sometimes if you cannot find the group that is doing what you want to do, sometimes you might have to create the environment yourself. Now I know that sounds scary, and a lot of people might feel like that's too much, and I totally get it because it is a lot. But I found that I was looking for something very specific with my group of girlfriends, my group of relationships, and it took me creating environments. Like I threw a sisterhood picnic, I threw a networking and chill event, I threw these different events to create the container and facilitate connection, because what I was looking for was something a lot more intimate. I wanted it to be with a group of women who have something that I desire or something that I aspire or admire about. And I was finding that when I went to these meetups, I was finding a lot of women who were not necessarily in alignment with me and who I wanted to become. And this is not to be like rude against anybody who's not an entrepreneur or not, doing the things that I'm doing. But at the end of the day, our time is so very limited. And so if we're going to be spending it and using it to customize the life that we want, we need to be very selective with who we are choosing to spend time with. And this is not to, again, crap on old relationships, old friendships, anything like that. But at the end of the day, if they're not in alignment with who you want to become, like I said, your time is limited. And so you spending time is going to be using and tapping into a limited resource. Just saying. So I encourage you to really think carefully about who you spend your time with, who you listen to, okay? Very important. There are so many people that we keep in our lives because, we have history with them. We don't want to end that relationship because we've gone through a lot of things together. I had a friendship of mine. We were friends for 5 years. And ultimately, as much as I loved her, that friendship started to fizzle out and die on its own anyways. And as much as I tried to contain it and maintain that friendship, it's funny how God works or how energy works, but eventually we just grew apart anyways. We stopped having things to connect over. She wanted to mostly stay at home and rot, and I wanted to do things and be productive. I was always on the go, and she didn't want to do that. And the conversations, when I wanted to have stimulating conversations, things that required a deeper mindset and maybe even possibly triggering, she didn't want to have those conversations and took offense. And so when we continued to try and meet up and hang out, it started to become taxing on my body. It started to feel draining on my body. So I was literally, every time we would finish hanging out, I felt emotionally drained, exhausted, tired. And I was like, why am I so tired? It's because my cup wasn't being filled. Which brings me to my next point, is when we try to hold on to these relationships that no longer serve us, I'm telling you, whether you move on it and take proactive action and begin to distance yourself from these relationships, that'll essentially happen on its own, regardless of if or not you're trying to maintain it. Because energy doesn't lie. Okay, we can try and convince ourselves, but at the end of the day, energy cannot lie. You don't necessarily have to break off all of your friendships just because you want to become a new person, but I'm just saying be mindful. So I'm bringing into my next point, detachment. Practicing detachment it'll create the selection process that's necessary to find the friendships that you want in your life. A perfect example of this is, I'm dying already. If you are attached to any of these relationships, you really wanted to find that girlfriend who can shoot videos with you, who can vibe out and veg out with you on the weekends, who can do all these things with you, and you find this ideal woman. She's like literally everything I'm asking for, but then turns out she has some toxic traits, like she's jealous of you or something. Then suddenly you find yourself in this position where you are more caught up in the idea of how great this friendship could be, and then you lose track of the reality of it. And this happens in like dating and relationships, right? Like you're wanting to date someone so bad that you're willing to overlook certain quality traits of theirs that if you were detached, you otherwise would not entertain whatsoever. But because you have this timeline in your head, an idea that this is what they need to look like, and they're so close to that description, you end up sacrificing so much of your non-negotiables just so that you can fit that timeline and description that you thought you needed. I encourage you to realize what your non-negotiables are, right? And sometimes you won't know this until you start going out on dates, you start meeting up with girlfriends, guy friends, whatever. And sometimes they'll expose a little character trait of theirs that will twinge a little signifier saying, hey, wait, I don't think I'm okay with this. And then by then you can just like kind of add it to your notebook of things that are non-negotiables. Now I'm not saying don't do this in a way that's like causing you to be hypercritical of every little relationship that you develop, because then we actually set ourselves up for failure because we're closing doors to relationships that could otherwise be absolutely beautiful and beneficial for us. But there's some things that we absolutely know we cannot negotiate with. And I'm saying like not superficial things, but I mean like character traits that we know we don't want to budge on. Like, for example, if he's super controlling and doesn't let you wear like a V-cut t-shirt out, or like if she's super into her party phase and is boy hungry, willing to throw you under the bus. Like these are character traits, not physical traits that don't sit well with you and don't mold with who you want to be. Do not negotiate. Non-negotiables. But bringing it back around to the whole detachment from relationships is knowing that, and this is why I always say we have to have belief in something bigger than us. For me, it's God, and I hope that it's God for you too. You have to have faith that these relationships will come to you. Where energy flows, energy goes. So if you're living the lifestyle that you know is who you want to become or are becoming, if you're doing the things, you're working out every day, you're eating right, the mindset is the same, right? I'm just talking from a fitness standpoint, but you're putting yourself in the environment that is meant for the people that you're wanting to become, that energy will attract the right people into your life. And you have to just trust and have faith and believe that that is the case. Because if not, then you begin to latch on to these relationships that are lies. These are the relationships that are not necessarily supposed to be in your life. You latch on to these relationships thinking they're meant for you, but you're actually more just caught up in the idea of what you think they should be. 9, 10. Hícalo. Okay. What time is it? Yeah, let's go. Okay. The way that I like to think about detachment is also, think of it like a testing ground, a trial for people, things, experiences you want in your life. This is the time where you get the opportunity to practice being your truest, fullest self. A lot of people like to put up the front of who they are when they first go on that first date, when they meet up with a new potential girlfriend. And so they put up this front thinking that this is the only way that they're going to maintain any sort of meaningful relationship. But the truth is, if you're wanting to develop a deeper relationship anyways, you're probably going to want to expose who you truly are, to use it as a trial period for those relationships. So basically using it to weed out any of those relationships that are looking to connect with you for more selfish reasons and not for authentic reasons, which is to get to know you and understand you, and vice versa. A meaningful relationship is one that consists of truth, honesty, connection, and growth. That is a meaningful relationship. And so if you're starting it off by lying, you're going to attract the wrong crowd. You're going to attract the wrong relationship, the wrong friendship, because it's all built on this perceived idea of you, but it's not the actual you. So using detachment and allowing yourself to truly be you, and using these meetings and meetups as an opportunity to explore being honest with yourself and who you are, what you want in life, your characteristics, is going to present you with an opportunity not only to build courage and confidence in who you are. Gosh, this is so hard for me, but also will allow you to establish the true, authentic relationships that like and enjoy you for you. It just makes sense. We need to stop trying to lie to ourselves and to others of who we are, because all it does at the end of the day is harm us and them, and it wastes both of our time. And like I said, time is a limited resource. We need to start really taking into account how much time we actually have to be spending it and wasting it with people who don't actually even know us. This is a lesson that I struggled with for the longest time. And reason being is because I didn't find it meaningful to develop relationships in the first place. I was very isolated, very alone, and I thought that I could find a life of happiness like this. Now you can, I think, to some degree, but is it a fulfilled life? I personally don't think so. I think true growth in yourself is also a representation of how many true friendships and relationships you can actually build. And I want to emphasize true, because there are also people out there who are just really good at networking, who can develop all of these surface level relationships, but are not actually deepened in their connections with these people. Those people may seem like they've got it all together, but then they have like some of the worst character traits because they're so caught up in the minutia of building these perceived relationships. They look very connected, they look very well known, but on the inside, most of the time, those people, a lot of the time, they can end up being very lonely on the inside. But you'll know, if you're connected to yourself in any degree, and your intuition, your spirituality, I call it the Holy Spirit, then you'll have an inkling of who is actually genuine when they try to develop these relationships with you, and who is a fake. So trust your intuition, let yourself guide you. And yeah, we're getting close here. So let's wrap up all the things I was saying. Number one is develop the mindset of the person you want to become. What does that person think, do? Where do they play? Where do they study? Where are they working at? Once you have an idea of what that future you looks like, put yourself into those environments. And if you cannot find that environment, create one. Do a Facebook group, announce it in your social media. Who cares if it's cringy? Okay, people think things are cringy when they first start off, and then by the end of it, they start to realize when it has success, they're like, oh, well, I guess it wasn't very cringy. It's worth it, trust me. I look back at all of my things and things I've done in my life, and I'm like, oh, all that's very cringy, but now I see all the fruits of my labor. It was worth it. It's okay. No one's gonna remember your cringe. So if you can't find the environment, create the environment. Practice detachment. Number 3, don't fall in love with the idea of what these relationships should look like. Instead, figure out what your non-negotiables are, and then if you find somebody close to what you imagined as being your best friend or being your relationship, your hubby, your wife, be excited, open up those doors, be open to those connections. But also, if they fall through, for something like, most of the time, like, God will present to you a reason why they fall out, and it'll be like so outlandish, like they'll just ghost you out of nowhere, or they'll have like a mental breakthrough, and they're just like, oh, well, I can't talk anymore, or like, I'm just not ready. Things like that happen because it's a nice and gentle redirect from a relationship you weren't supposed to have in the first place. So allow that detachment, allow the redirect, and move forward. And as you practice detachment, understand that these relationships, as you meet them, as they begin to funnel into your life because of the energy you're putting out, you will attract the right relationships, but only if you're true and honest when you meet them. Show them who you are first and foremost. And if they are not down with it, good, because they're not down with who you actually are. And that truth will be exposed at some point, one way or another. You might as well use it as a trial period, a selection process to cancel out all the people who are not in alignment with who you are becoming, who you want to be, and only spend and reserve your time and energy for the people who are. And the last lesson I really, really want to harp on, guys, before we wrap up this episode of Lifting and Life Lessons, is understand that this is a process, okay? It doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just suddenly say, oh, I've adopted the mindset, I've learned what this person does, like my ideal version of me does. I am that person now. I should be having the friend group and the relationships to match. It doesn't happen overnight, okay? Because oftentimes we really do have to refine ourselves before we can actually find the true other souls that are connected to that self. So that requires a lot more awareness on our end, healing on our end, and sometimes we think we're ready to outpour into others because we feel abundant within ourselves, but sometimes there's things that are lingering within us that we are unaware of that are still needing to be worked on. And also, it's like right time, right place, right? Sometimes you might be in that exact space where you need to be internally and with yourself, but then suddenly you find yourself still in these certain environments that do not match up with it, and you can't find these relationships. Oftentimes it requires you maybe even to uproot yourself and move yourself to an environment that actually offers that opportunity to evolve. And for some people, you know, it might look like moving to another city, state. Other people, it means just going up north more, or going to places that they've never been to before. So it really just depends. Everybody's story is going to be different, but just know that it is a process to build the friendships, the relationships, everything that you want in these communities. It takes time, and it also takes effort. You cannot just allow these things to come to you. You sometimes have to create those containers. You sometimes have to be the first person to reach out to that person and say, hey, you want to meet up for coffee? In those romantic relationships, like, you know, I feel like we really connect, would love to deepen this connection. You'd be surprised at who that either turns away or brings on. Just remember, if you have any belief in something bigger than you, for me it's God, Jesus, the almighty Jehovah Jireh. But just know that if you are putting in the work and you are pouring your energy into specifically building a community and building those relationships, finding those friendships that are in alignment with who you are becoming, it will come to you. It will happen for you, I promise you. And you might have to sift through some of the dirt before you find the gold. But it is so worth it when you invest your time and energy into people who actually are supportive, who actually care about you, who will call and check in on you, who will meet up with you weekly. But remember, like any relationship, it requires your effort, time, and energy. So if you're at your house all the time and only ever wanting them to come to you, and you're not setting up the meetings, and they're not hitting you up anymore either, it's not going to develop in the way that you want. Any deep relationship you want, including the one with God, requires you to show up and show up consistently. For me, I show up with God every single day. I read the Bible, I pray, I talk to him every single day, almost every couple hours now at this point. But that's the reason why I feel so connected to the source. I feel so connected to God because I put in the time and energy and effort. And it's the same thing with any other relationship we have in our lives. The relationships, the romantic ones, the friendships, it doesn't matter. Our family things, if we're not putting in the time and energy, we're not going to get that time and energy back from them. So take the first step. If you are listening to this entire video, you are more than capable of being the first one to take the first step. It requires you to be bold. It requires you to take a step forward and going against the grain. I know sometimes it may be uncomfortable, and I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to the choir, because I have some difficult conversations that I myself need to have with family and things because I want to develop a deeper relationship with them. And I haven't done that. I haven't put myself forward. I haven't put the time and energy to establish those relationships any deeper because I have my own fears. I have my own things I'm working through. But I'm just preaching to the choir here, saying that if you want to build something meaningful and lasting, you have to put the time, energy, and effort in doing so. All right, so that's all, guys. That is the lifting and life lessons. We are getting the health back. I'm trying to make sure I'm at the gym at least 5 times a week to really build up my health before this surgery because I know it's going to help with the healing of it. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what my body will look like after I take these implants out. Who knows? Okay. Thank you guys for joining in on another lifting and life lessons. I truly, truly love spending this time with you. If you guys haven't already, please like, subscribe, do all the things, leave me a comment, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Mwah. Bye.